Welcome to the Ben Nevares podcast with your host, Ben Nevares.
Well, one day we'll get better quality little things here. They're a little tight, but yeah.
There you go.
That'll
Perfect.
work. Howdy. Hi. Welcome back to the podcast. Thank you for coming in.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I appreciate it. You have a book that came out, and maybe we shouldn't start with a book. I think that the last question I just asked you was, what is your big keynote idea or talk at this point?
So the shopping cart chapter, which is the second chapter in the book, is what kind of started me off on writing this book. I mean, you're a personal trainer, right? So you've been in the fitness industry. Have you ever been in the grocery store and you're looking at people's shopping cart and you're just analyzing, being very judgmental, and whatever's in their cart represents who that person is, typically?
Without a doubt. I remember I just was there recently and I saw a person with like a whole bunch of sodas, and I was just like, I could never imagine going to the store and picking out like 24 different.
They got them like lined around the outside of the cart and then just a bunch of processed crap down in the middle.
It's crazy. Yeah.
But they look miserable most of the time.
Unfortunately.
And then you see the people that have the nice organic foods, the chicken and the rice and the vegetables and everything. A little more pep in their step.
Care a little bit more about what they're doing in their life. They care.
Right.
It's a good feeling.
So I started writing that chapter, and when I was personal training up in Kansas City, and it started to evolve where you were the cart. What are you investing in yourself? What are you putting in your body, or what are you spending your time on to make yourself better or, worse in that processed food category?
What are you doing right now to put inside of your body, or like if you as a whole, if you're the shopping cart, what are some priorities that you have in your current life right now?
I'm in the gym every day. I eat pretty healthy. I balance it out. I got a family. I got kids. So yeah, we're going to have waffles on Saturday morning. We're going to have cereal, and we're going to go out to eat every so often. But for the most part, I have a good routine, and I've stuck with that routine for a long time, trying to get a little bit more into reading. When I did 75 hard last year, that was the hardest part for me, was the reading. Everything else was pretty easy. That was tough.
The reading is so difficult. I mean, I feel like it shouldn't be, but
no, I mean, like 10 pages, like you should be able to get 10 pages pretty easy. But like, I'll do it at night. By page 2, I fall asleep. Lately, I've been trying to get up in the morning, like 5 in the morning, get my coffee and start reading. But man, I'm just not a morning person.
Did you read on the plane?
I did not. It was 5 o'clock. It was dark. I was like, I was trying to nap.
That's fair.
I had to prep for you.
Yeah. Hey, I do definitely appreciate you coming into town. I think it feels good, I think, to know and to remember, like, this thing's real and it's happening and it's gaining traction, and it's because of people like you that continue to support the thing that I'm doing. And yes, there's a benefit to the opposite party, but like, without guests, without people like you, without people listening, then I am without
just talking to yourself.
I'm just talking to myself.
Yeah.
And I hope that as it continues to grow, like seeing the numbers kind of increase, it's really neat. And so I think that you definitely have a wild story that's gone into a really cool place that's summarized in the book. And it makes me feel like it was motivating. Like, I want to, like, fuck yeah, I want to be successful. Like breaking down my community and how it looks. Like, who are the people that I need to take out the trash, right? And so, and then how do you do it? Like it's kind of scary sometimes to tell somebody like, all right, I don't want you in my life anymore.
I feel like that's the hard part. Like, surrounding yourself with good people. You can go out and start picking good people to hang out with, but when you get that friend that you really enjoy hanging out with, you like going out with, but he doesn't benefit, he's not helping you towards your goal, it's hard to, take that trash out.
It's hard.
And a lot of times it's people that are really close to you. A lot of times it's family. Like we talked about in the book, it's, like I don't have a relationship with my parents because I had to take out the trash. They were really holding me back. And once I let that go, I just went up.
Did you see a difference once you made that?
It was a 180.
How? What do you mean?
I was just getting a lot of negative influence, and you're never going to amount to anything. You're always a quitter. You're just no good. And I mean, these are legit things that would come out of my dad's mouth. Like,
no shit.
As an adult, like after I'm already a doctor, everything, I have my own practice, and he's like, "You're never going to amount to anything." Like, what?
That seems so left field for me. That's wild. Like, what?
Yeah.
Why? Like, as a parent, I would imagine, like, you have kids.
Yeah.
Do you ever think about telling your kids that now?
No, and that's what my first and second mouse chapter is about, is that modeled behavior. It talks about some mentorship, and mentorship is great. Like, having somebody in your corner that can show you the ropes is 100% golden. Like, you always need to have a mentor. But modeled behavior, and you can learn from anybody. Like, I personal trained for 10 years, and I'd be with a client or something, and I'd see just an average person in the gym doing something, like, why didn't I think of that? And then I would implement that into my routine. So you can always learn something, but it's those learning from people's mistakes in that model behavior is big, and not repeating those mistakes. So talking about with my kids, I'd never go negative with them.
There's a time, at what point do you, like, how do you provide encouragement and areas of opportunity? Because I feel like it can swing the exact opposite ways, right? You can tell your kid you're never going to be successful. You can tell your kid you're always going to be successful, maybe to a fault, and not say, hey, like, how do we be wise? How do you be that second mouse, the person with the wisdom, and approach the situation where, oh man, like, I'm not good at this. I need to maybe find some help, or I need to go do this. Like, how do you educate your children or educate somebody to be more wise, or to take that maybe there's something that they love but they're not the best at? How do you guide them in that right direction?
It's that power of because. Like, I need you to do this because it's going to lead you down the right road, or I need you not to do this because it's going to lead you off in a bad path. So just having that explanation and telling them the why is huge.
I wish I would have had more whys.
Me too. Like we had talked about it before, is like, I need you to do this because I said so. That's an empty command. Like, it gives you no direction at all.
It makes me want to go do the opposite.
Exactly.
Almost all the time.
Every time my dad would tell me, like, you're not going to do this. The fuck I am. I tell you right now, I will do this.
And maybe that's part of the success. I don't know. Like,
yeah,
trying to, like,
I'm proving them wrong.
Yeah. Do you still carry that with you?
A little. I mean, there's always resentment, just in kind of how things kind of played out. But now I'm doing me.
It's a good place to be.
Yeah.
The power of because. I mean, when I grew up, I remember it was just do this because, or not. There was less becauses, and there was also less help. And I think that you get around some people that provide some encouragement that is just like, oh, like, what do you mean? Or how can I help? And when I first tried to start doing powerlifting outside of school, outside of high school, I found somebody at a different university who never knew who I was. And I was just like, hey man, I'm looking for help. And he was like, okay, sounds good. Like, you should come over here so you can get into this organization, and this organization will guide you in the right direction. So if you want to compete for Team USA, this is where you do it. And that person, I think, part of the big reason that changed my life, I think my trajectory for the rest of my life, just because somebody gave me some sort of guidance, versus parents that were just like, you got to do it. And it's like, okay, well, like, I just don't know why. That
provides no encouragement at all. But like your friend that's helping you into the powerlifting scene, he's encouraging you to go in a certain direction. And that's why we have to build those different circles around us, and we don't necessarily just have one circle. I mean, we have, like, I have my social circle, and I have my boys from high school that, like, we don't always see each other, but we got a group thread that's just mindless. I got my family, I got my business circle, I got my investment circle, and some of them overlap, but for the most part, they're separate.
I really liked that chapter, and I liked you are ultimately at the epicenter of it all.
Yes.
And then you get to create and choose who are these people around you, and then knowing when to take out the trash when needed. At what point in your life did you start to incorporate this, that mentality of, okay, I need to have separate circles? And then what do those circles look like? Because I was thinking about, as I'm reading that chapter, I'm like, okay, who's in my circle? And what are the circles that, like, it was the social circle, right there, the primary circle, the social circle, the investment circle,
The business. Do you already say social?
Yes,
And then
maybe, but
the boys.
the boys, yeah, the
Yeah.
boys. It's like, who is in my circle, and how can do I even have a circle? Like, are they that categorized? But being able to put them on paper and say, oh, these are my people in these areas provided so much benefit to me. At what point did you start to incorporate that mentality?
I mean, I start putting people in place. You always have, your circles evolve. So I remember my circle when I was 20 and 30 were way different than once I got into my 40s. I've always had like a good social circle, and I felt like I spent a little bit too much time in that circle. Now my social circle is a little bit more productive than it was 20 years ago. But I had my friend Galen who came into the office. He was a patient. We just naturally started talking about stocks and investing. And then he and I started hanging out, and that got me really heavy into the investment side of things. And then once we started buying out different businesses and stuff like that, and doing some real estate stuff, then I started bringing more people into that investment circle.
I want to learn more about that. I want to learn a lot about that.
Yeah.
That is an area that if you really want to create some long-term wealth, I think that creating or purchasing other businesses and investing in other businesses is like the way to go. And part of that is real estate. It could be practices.
And I feel like I'm still in the infancy stage of the investment side. We talked a little bit about intangibles. I don't have a ton of the knowledge. I just create that supporting cast, and I'm very gritty. Like, I'm just going to go and keep going and keep going and keep going. And I just make sure that I have those people in place to help facilitate that stuff.
I think that I would imagine motivate people that are like, but I don't know about business. It's like, it's okay.
Yeah.
Do you have somebody in your community that does? Or have you reached out to anybody that might? Or have you had those conversations with anybody around you? Or are you just always talking about the bar and the drinking and which club we're going to next week? Or are you asking people like, hey, like, do you know what's going on in the stock market?
Yeah. See, but those were my conversations 20 years ago. Like, hey, what time are we going to the bar? What time are we going to go to the gym? Which is productive, but it's not in that investment realm. Now you start bringing people around that are like, hey, did you see what the stock market's doing? Or, start talking about real estate.
If it wasn't for people that were around me at the time, I would have never had these conversations, probably maybe as early as I started. It was people like you that were like, yeah, come on by, like come to the clinic and just like shadow for and for a little bit to see kind of how this works. And it was still like in the infancy of your business, but like be able to go from that to watching you kind of grow, and being around people that were having those conversations and trying to grow and trying to implement new tactics or skills or ideas and like grow the community and provide for others. And like, if you don't have those people around you, it makes it so difficult.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And I'll tell anybody, I'm not the smartest person in the world. I got by with B's and C's for sure. But when it comes to like getting out there and taking action, I'm all about that.
You definitely seem like that. I mean, you wrote a damn book.
Yeah.
You're buying businesses, you're doing books, you're doing the thing, you're finding the right people around you. Like, you're a go-getter.
But I think that the main thing is having goals. Like, if you're just a go-getter and you have no direction, it's pointless. But like, I have an end goal, and my goal is to retire by 50 with 6-7 practices under my belt where I'm just getting passive income. I can go out, chill in my boat, hang out with my family, do whatever I want, and enjoy it. And I think that's a lot of people's goals, but they just don't have the direction to get there. And it's a stepping stone that you just got to create a timeline and know what to do and how it snowballs into the next thing.
I like that you talked about starting at the end, right? I think that whenever I write training programs, if I want somebody to squat 500 pounds, then I was like, okay, well, in 15 weeks, I need this person to squat this amount. Is that a realistic goal, right? Use my SMART goals.
Yeah.
And then after that, I can count backwards and say, all right, well, it's going to take this week, I'm going to need to do triples at this weight or whatever it may be. It's very similar with financial goals. I have a lofty goal of a personal income, which amounts to about $90,000 a day. And so if I can, that goal will put me on a trajectory of, okay, well, am I going to be in personal training? Well, I don't know. I don't really know any personal trainers make $90,000 a day.
Yeah.
So we got to readjust, right? And I like that you break it down into this, okay, for this thing first and then work backwards.
Right.
It's
The goal has to be there before you can even get started.
I don't always know it's hard to have clarity what those goals are at times. Did you know what your goal, like, I want to own 7 practices? Like, at what point did you come into this realization?
I didn't. I mean, up until a few years ago, during COVID, my wife and I sat down and we started doing workshop Wednesdays. So every Wednesday morning, we would get up, and it first started, I opened the practice at 9. And so from 9 to 11, she and I would sit at the kitchen table and we would plot out our goals. Like, this is what I want to achieve short term, intermediate term, long term. And we would start implementing those little steps to get to those goals. And after a while, I felt that it was more advantageous to just take the whole morning off. And I would only work from like 2:30 to 5 on Wednesdays, which is nice. It's a nice break in the middle of the week. But we sit down and I invest more into my shopping cart by doing Workshop Wednesday and planning for my future.
I need to incorporate some Workshop Wednesday into my life. I don't do that nearly enough.
I mean, get you a group, do a think tank, or, do it on your own and set your goals. But you need to just designate an hour on Wednesday mornings or whatever morning, and, think tank Thursdays.
Think Tank Thursday.
There you go. I like it.
I like it a lot. I liked it a lot.
So maybe I'll take 2 days off.
And all of a sudden now it's 3, right? You have 4 practices and you have 3.
Yeah, like every time I open one up, I just take a day off of when I'm in the practice.
Yeah. Working on the business, not in the business.
That's right.
That's a realization that I'm learning that provides so much intrinsic value as well. If you can see your project grow, like, it feels good, and like you're delegating and working with people and like doing like putting your energy towards something
But you're helping these people too. Like, everybody's happy, everybody's prosperous, like everybody is moving up.
And like, yes, everyone's always constantly moving up, and that is the goal. Because then I think we've all had bad bosses.
Oh, for sure.
And when you have somebody who like cares and has integrity behind the thing that they're doing and can accept that maybe they don't know the thing at that moment, but they can go find it, or they hired you so that you do know that and you're the thinker and we can collaborate together, and like your opinions are heard and given the opportunity to exist inside of the business. Like, I think that provides so much intrinsic value to the people that are working with you and for you, but also to yourself and watching it grow.
Yeah. And like yesterday, I took my manager to lunch. I've been so busy with the travel and the book and like doing all the marketing stuff for the practice and then for our gym and everything else. I've been all over the place. So I felt a little disconnect with her. So I was like, hey, let's go to lunch. And one of my things is like, I just want to make sure that you're happy and you're good. And that's important to me because that affects my whole business. That affects how I operate. So
makes a significant difference.
Oh, big
even
time.
Being heard, like,
yeah.
Oh, you care? Oh, that's nice.
Yep.
Like, yeah, I think, or hey, no, actually, I want this to change. Okay, like, let's talk about it.
But then you're listening, so you get that respect from caring, listening, being empathetic to your staff and people in your circle, whether even if they're on the same level.
I like it. I want to talk about intangibles. What are when did you recognize that what your intangibles are? like your strengths, and then how do you use those towards your tangible skills? Or how do the way you said it inside the book was taking your intangibles and using them to empower your tangibles.
Right.
How does that practice? How does that come into play?
We have that subchapter doing the gritty. Like, I'm a gritty person. Like, I fucking hate to lose. That I do not want to lose ever. It doesn't matter if it's in business. It does not matter if it's in cards, a basketball game, tiddlywinks, whatever. I fucking hate to lose. And so that is my intangible. Like, I'm always going to keep going. And you look at guys like Jordan or Brady or any of those guys, they have those intangibles. Like, they just have the it factor, the leadership, just going out. They know how to manage their team.
It's a really good one. I'm trying to think about how that applies.
Because, I mean, you look at Brady. Let's look at his combine stuff. It's not impressive, but it's what's up here. How you lead.
It is all about how you lead. I just got it. I got accepted to the MBA program here at the university.
Congrats.
So, thank you. I was like, okay, I know that I lack in this area, and I don't need to be the best, but I definitely need to be able to have the chops to sit down with other people and have these conversations.
Yeah.
Or make sure that my business internally is running well. I have my own CPA, but I can still this is like, I can format something in a way that's easier for him to work with. So ultimately, like, everybody has this easier job. I forgot I was going to go.
I kind of feel like you were going in a place where you put your effort into what is going to benefit you. And I think I did talk about it in the book. It's about perspective. Like, my perspective was, I'm going to focus on what's going to make me money, what's going to make me successful. So when we were in the academic part of chiropractic school, I'm like, I sat in the back row, played on my phone. I did what I had to do to get by, and I learned stuff, and learned what I needed to learn. And then we got in the clinic, and everybody was like, where did this guy come from? And I just blew everybody out of the water because I had everything lined up. I was personal training while I was going to school. I had all of my clients lined up, ready to come into the clinic, and I just blew my numbers out quick.
That's cool. That's really neat. Bedside manner, as a chiropractor or a personal trainer, I would imagine are fairly similar.
You got to know your audience. Because people like you, I'm going to talk shit. I'm going to have fun, talk trash. Like, I talk trash in the office to patients, just playing around, and they love it. Now, a little old lady comes in there. I'm not gonna, but it's just knowing the audience and having fun with it.
But I think it's underrated. I think it's understated how important it is, or how well somebody does it. Like, you're probably there in the moment, and there is so much inside of your head going on that you recognize this person. Either your past experiences with the person with your experience with this person, like, okay, this person doesn't really cuss when they're around me. They're 60s or older, and I need to how am I going to approach this person? I'm going to make myself small. I'm going to give a gentle handshake. I'm not going to give an aggressive handshake. There's all of these small decisions that are ultimately building the rapport that you have with with your patients. And I think a lot of that is practiced in the personal training world. So I'd imagine, like, you get into the clinical side of the chiropractic thing, and it's not just that you're like, you can go through your hours really quickly. It's also like, man, he's also handling these patients really, really well. Like, what is this guy doing? It's like, it's years of fucking practice, man.
Yeah. And it's relating to the people, relating to them on a similar level. When I was young, I was bartending, waiting tables. I would go up to a table, let's just say that people are sitting in a booth, and I would squat down next to the booth to make sure that I'm eye level. And then we're just on it. We're here. It's not where I'm looking down on you, anything like that. It's finding that relation. Or if it was a couple sitting in a booth, I would just like push one of them over and go sit down with them and talk or take their order while I was sitting in the booth. And it's just being fun and having a good time. And I think a lot of people just lose the enjoyment in what they do.
There is a lot of value to, like, being a kid, like, just stop taking yourself so seriously at sometimes. Like, people are just people. It's okay to connect. It's probably what everybody's looking for.
And be yourself. whenever I first started, I wore long sleeve, button down every day, slacks, and it was hot. Like Texas summers, it was hot, and I'm just sweating. I was like, screw this, I'm going to polos. And I was scared because of the tattoos, and we're in a more conservative town, and my business just went phew, because you're you, and you're more approachable, you're more relatable, and you don't come across as snobby.
People can recognize when people are bullshitting.
Yeah.
And if you're you with the, I'm kind of worried about the like I got one below my, below my line, my t-shirt line. And even that, sometimes I'm like, okay, like, is this going to be accepted or not? Like, what areas this is not going to be good in? Should I wear a long sleeve? But then like something like that, it's kind of like going away, and it doesn't necessarily matter. How do you treat people?
It's so accepted now. Like, it doesn't matter. Now, I did tell my wife I wanted to do my hand and my throat, and she was like, too much.
I think hand tattoos are freaking cool, man.
That's my next one. I got a couple of things I got to get through before I do it, but that's coming.
That's the next goal. Another goal, not necessarily
it's a goal.
Business goal, but
I got tattoo goals like a mile long.
Dude, what do you want next? Do you have anything that you want next?
I'm gonna do my whole back. I'm gonna do my whole chest. Lately, I've been doing a bucket list piece on my thigh. So I got a 25 item bucket list. So every time I mark one off, I tattoo that on my thigh.
That's dope.
So like writing my book was one. So I got the book cover on my thigh. We just went to Italy, and riding a gondola in Venice was one of them. So I got the big bridge with the gondola going under it. So, and I'm just gonna sleeve my whole leg with bucket list stuff.
I like that idea a lot.
It's fun. It's like a great time. My tattoo artist is kind of like, I don't understand, but it's cool.
Like, none of this goes together.
It doesn't go together. Like, you got a cage fight over here, you got a book over here, and a gondola. Like, nothing fits. Like, it's me, dude.
It matters to me.
Yeah.
It's a
It's
story.
personal.
Yeah, it's a story for you. Being authentic, I think, is, I don't know, for some reason it seems like it's difficult for some people, and I don't necessarily understand it. I understand, like, there's some barriers, like expectations from the outside world, but I think because we live in such a large place, there's so many people that you'll find your people, and you'll feel better, and you'll have more success. It feels good to find your people.
I think it's social media. I think that's where that fakeness comes, like, because everybody's trying to keep up with this surreal life that other people are creating, and it's just a facade.
I didn't realize as many people were editing their videos the way that they did until, like, there's a couple guys on Instagram, or even like give like health and fitness advice, and these people that are like, they have no research background. They're like, the popular one right now is Celsius has cyanide in it, so you shouldn't drink Celsius because it's going to kill you. But B12 is cyanoclomine or whatever the last bit of the, and so then that's what they're harping on. It's like, no, that's not the way that works. But they're just trying to get clicks, they're trying to get views, and unfortunately it works for a lot of people. Yeah,
the clicks and the likes are way more important than the truth.
To them.
To them. That's what I'm saying. To them.
I desperately seek truth, and I think in most things, and when you have that, like, truth, that somebody that you can just like listen to and go like, oh, like, that person's actually putting out good material, like, people gravitate, and I think that's what allows for a good long-term success. It's not success that's going to happen in a flash. Like, it takes years to develop this authenticity, and then they finally like be able to put it into practice, and then people finally start to recognize it. And it's like, maybe it's a slower roll than getting an immediate 10 million followers or likes on social media, but then all of a sudden, like, those 10 million people, you're completely unbased because now they realize all the shit you've been putting out is all fake.
Yeah.
And so it's like, versus, okay, I'm going to build, one person a day, one new listener a day, 5 new listeners a day. And then all of a sudden you have this following that's like people that actually value your opinion.
Yeah. And you said it, like, the faster that you build it, the faster it can go. Same thing with money. They're giving these kids millions of dollars out of high school, the NIL stuff. These kids are not responsible enough to be handling millions of dollars, and they didn't grow into that success. They did. They grew in a sense of training and getting to this level, but on a financial and a success level, they're not there yet. And that's why you see a lot of these guys going bankrupt, after a few years, because you did not grow into your success. Same thing with these crash diets. The faster you lose the weight, the easier it is to come back on.
Those kids. I mean, imagine being 20 years old and getting fucking whatever, how much money they're getting, millions of dollars.
I think there was a guy out of Florida, he's 18 years old, right out of high school, and got like $12 million. And I like, why?
That kid doesn't know what to do with 12. And some people will, but statistics show that most people don't. And most people go bankrupt.
Right.
Like 2 years out of the NFL, you made X amount of millions of dollars during your time, like tens of millions of dollars. Sometimes hundreds, right? And then all of a sudden it's gone. It's like, oh, I have nice cars, nice clothes, and nice houses, but I have no way to sustain this lifestyle.
Yeah. And at first I was against the entire NIL thing. It's like, you're getting a free education to be there. They're handing these kids millions of dollars, and it's insane, like briefcases of money, and hey, go do this and I'll give you this. Before I was very, very against it. And then my son just went and is now playing football for Texas Tech.
Damn.
And I'm just seeing like everything that they're getting. And he's not to that level yet. He's a 17-year-old kid, graduated early, played spring ball. So he hasn't even gotten to his first season yet. But I had to teach him like, all right, this is your sliding scale. Like this is your negative balance. We talk about it in the book, the sliding scale of 0. You start here, we start saving money. And after, let's say, 3 months, your perceived 0 is now $500. You can't drop below that. Next quarter, we're going to 1,000. So you're just building that up. That way you have a cushion. It cuts down on your anxiety and your worry about things.
So I want a little bit more about that. So is my sliding scale, I think you said inside the book, it was after expenses have been made, like rent, electricity, blah 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 blah.
Yeah, you're not adjusting that bottom line and sliding it up until you can hit that mark after all of your overhead is met. So once all that's met and you're still sitting at that 500 or 1,000 or 10,000 or whatever it is, then you're good, after like 3 months to go up to the next level and then keep going up and keep going up. That's how you grow.
I think when I first started making money, it was my sliding scale was like $10 in my account. It's like if I have $10, dude, then fucking oh my god! But it was to a degree that was
better than negative, whatever.
I've been there in my life.
Yeah, I have too. I mean, I've been broke. I've been homeless. I've been everything, and I never want to go back to that place.
That's a scary place, man.
For sure.
How does this Jason differ from that Jason? Like, how have you changed? If I was talking to that guy, what would I see versus this guy I see today?
Goals for 1, changing my circle for 2, and 3 is having a vision and just being a little bit more, how do I say this? Like aware of my surroundings or aware of what's going on. Everything is more real. Like I know back then I was like, man, if I could just make $100,000, that would be awesome. And now we're like, oh, if we can make $1 million a year, that would be good. And I'm sure 50-year-old Jason's going to be, if I can make 10 million this year, that's going to be good. So like putting things in perspective, really. I don't think that I had that perspective back then.
Is it because, you came up from a family that worked.
Yeah, it was very blue collar and middle class. I ran with all the uppity kids.
So was it because of those conversations just never happened while growing up?
I never saw behind the scenes.
What was the rationale, do you know, from your parents? Why not include? Why not discuss? Why not teach?
I don't know. I never got that education, like credit or like how to make money, how to save money, any of that stuff. I had to learn those things way later in life. And I feel like I would have eliminated a lot of hardships if I would have gotten that education as a kid. And that's what the objective of the book is to eliminate the hardships for all these young entrepreneurs that don't really know what they're doing.
I never had those conversations either. And it's something that frustrated me for a very long time. And now at this point, I'm kind of more resigned to it. Like, it is what it is. But there's definitely still moments where I'm like, man, if you would have just done, like, how did you not know this? And I understand, like, Google wasn't wasn't accessible, but I got a large check from my grandfather to buy a car. And I was already in college, but it was going to be my college car. My parents got the cash. Like, we'll take care of it for you. Don't worry about it. We agreed on a car. Great. And then the next week they came up with a different car. I was like, well, we got a better deal with this one. And so we're going to do it with this one instead. We're going to take care of all the payments. It'll be out of our account. Okay. Sounds great. And then it wasn't until years later that I was like, I opened up the glove box and I was like, wait, he gave me a check for $25,000 and this car was $16,000. What happened with all the rest of the cash? I can't believe you would ask us about that. Like, that is so disrespectful. It's like, why wouldn't you help me pay for school? Like, or put me on like as a secondary owner or what? I don't know. Put me on the loan for the car to help improve my credit.
Right.
Like, that seems like what everybody knows around me. So why did you guys not know that? Or why did you guys not start investing? Or tell me how to save? Yeah, there was never a conversation really about saving money. It's just, there was such a disconnect that I think would have saved a lot of frustration and turmoil for the last 5 years. And I still have so much to learn. It's part of the reason for business school. It's like, I just need to go out there and learn, man. I need that education. I don't understand.
With my kids, it's all about educating. I mean, at a young level. So they have these they're called green light cards. And so I got all of my kids, once they turn like 10, a little debit card that's linked to my bank account. They can't get into my account, but I can funnel money into their account. So based on different athletic merits and doing your chores and good grades and everything, I will put money into their account. But I tell them right now, it's like 30% goes in your savings, 30% goes into investments because they can do stocks on these if I approve them. And then 40% you can just do whatever you want with. So they're getting this saving method. And I so wish I would have had that when I was a kid.
Save, dude.
my parents were like, yeah, just save your money or be smart with your money. How? Show me.
What does that mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's an intangible. It's less than intangible because like it could be I think the intangibles can be a pro, which is like the leadership skills or like understanding how to delegate, right? This intangible is a negative when you give people advice that's just like, you got to work hard.
What is it? Okay.
Everyone works, like, there's a fuck ton of people that work hard.
There's a fuck ton of people that say they work hard, but they don't know what hard work is. That's a big thing.
That's a good point.
Hey, how many people have been through like just a hard ass workout, where you're going up and you're repping out 225 on squats, as many as you can, or you're going for, a 500-pound squat, or you go through a hard wrestling practice. When I did my MMA fight, so they put me in the cage during practice. It's called Shark Tank. It's me against 3 or 4 guys. And it's always a fresh person coming after you.
Rough.
And you're dead for like 5-10 minutes. And you always have a fresh person. That's working hard. Like, people don't, again, how we were talking about perspective. Like, my 20-year-old self didn't understand the perspective of my 40-year-old self. Some of these other people that think they work hard don't have that perspective of what hard work really is.
How do they learn it?
Mentor. I mean, you have a mentor, they push you through, they show you what to do, they educate you. Sometimes it's your parents, a lot of times it's not. I had a lady up in Kansas City, she owned a chiropractic office and super successful, huge practice. And so I went in and shadowed her while I was in school, and then, we developed a good relationship, and then I applied for a job over there. And she had me fill out an application, and then she had me do a personality profile. And then I left. Next day, I came back over to shadow again, She was like, Jason, I just got to tell you, you're going to be a great doctor one day, but you're way too dominant for this practice. I can't have you in here because it just ruins my vibe, so to speak. Like, I just didn't mesh with her style. It's cool. Like, you gave me a lot in that, you were honest with me. You told me what I needed to hear, and you didn't bullshit me. When I first came down, I got an associate position after school. I had shadowed the two other associates in the office because the head doc was out of town on vacation. And then the first time that I ever met her, I sat down with her and one of the associates at lunch. Never met me in her life, just hearsay from the other associates. Sits down and throws me a contract across the table. Didn't know anything. That lasted like 3 months. It was horrible.
Rough. I feel like there's a lesson in that. The person that took the time to have you take the personality test and not waste each other's time.
Right.
Which may seem in the moment like, how could you? In
But
reality,
it's all about how you take it. Some people, when you start victimizing yourself, you're like, oh man, she didn't like me, or this person just didn't see what I have, or whatever. I'm like, okay, cool. You told me what I needed to hear, and I appreciate that.
That's massively valuable versus the other person is just like, here you go.
Yep. And it just wasn't a click.
Yeah.
And she had a pretty successful practice, and it just wasn't my vibe. But we parted ways, and it wasn't great when we parted ways. But that lit that fire under my ass to go out and open my own.
I bet.
After
that is when you went to go open your own?
Yep. I found the spot that I'm in, and I think there was like a 4-month gap where I was treating patients out of my living room on a portable table just to supplement, everything. And then we built out the entire office in like 4 months.
The same office that you're in now?
Yeah.
No shit.
Yeah.
That is wild.
So, I mean, my dad's a contractor. My uncle's a framer. So, I got a bunch of people that I could call on. I did my own architecture work. So I drew up the plans, went to the city, got it all approved. And then I did a lot of the stuff, like the demo stuff. It was a pretty open shell, and we just put up the walls and everything.
It's that work hard mentality, that never quitting, never lose, don't like to lose mentality. Like, oh, we're going to make it work.
Yep.
We're going to fucking figure this out.
I'm not going to fall on my face.
I want to talk about Cornerdo. Yeah, so, thank you, sir.
He's part of the boys circle and my social circle. He's the only one of my boys that lives in College Station with me. So we see more of each other. His name is Cornado. My son Beckett dubbed him Cornerdo, and it just stuck. It was perfect.
Intelligent dude, obviously. I would imagine. Intelligent dude.
Yeah, for sure.
And so, like, that first investment, what was that initial conversation looking like? How did you meet Cornado?
I met him through my buddy Trent. Trent and I went to middle school together. And Cornado was actually a grade above me in high school. And I knew of him. We didn't start hanging out until our 30s. And now we run around all the time. Super loyal friend. Like, anytime that I need to vent, or if I got something something personal I got to talk about, I can always go to him, and he's going to listen without judgment, without anything. And I feel like those are the people you need in your life.
Gotta have some of those people in your life.
You gotta have the Cornerdos.
You gotta have Cornerdos. Thank you, Cornerdo. Shout out. So you're starting. You're doing stuff inside of the living room, and at that point, were you just like, did you have your sights on opening your first location? And if you did, then how did you start to find your first location? And then how did you go to him to ask, like, hey, like, I need this cash?
Yeah. I just knew some people in town, and they're like, hey, we have this spot over here that looks pretty good. Maybe you should check that out. So I did, went in, called, and it was a great fit. It was centralized in town. And I knew right whenever I left that first practice that I had to open my own. I realized that I'm not a good associate. I like being the boss. I like running the show. So the first year, 2 years, it was rough. I remember when Kathy and I started dating, and this was back in 2017, our first real date. We went to the Astros postseason game. It was nice. And
Nice.
that's when I knew she was the one. And so I remember, man, if I could just have 35 patients this week, I would be good. And now we're like 200 something, it's nice.
That is crazy.
But yeah, when we first started dating, I had to check my bank account, make sure I could take her to lunch, and maybe tomorrow. Hopefully I'll get a check in today.
Not really that hungry today.
Yeah. Maybe we just make a picnic lunch and go.
Just want to do something cute,
Yeah. And then she thinks it's all special. It's just because I'm broke.
Damn, the things that we do.
I know.
That's hilarious. So then
Everybody's been there and they know it.
Oh, fuck yeah. I mean, oh, for sure. I can imagine how many times.
Trying to impress a girl or something and, oh, shit, I got no money.
Well, I'm not. I'll buy you something. I'm not really that hungry. Like I've definitely done that. Where it's like I only have like $10 in my account, and hope to God she doesn't get the most expensive thing on the menu.
Yeah, just hand her the kids' bill or the kids' menu.
This is what you are definitely going to order from. This is our budget. And then I think I went from that to definitely like having some financial freedom when I started being in real estate, and then. And I was like that kid that didn't have those money management skills. That was like, well, let's just go to dinner every night and spend $200 a night. And like,
I was that way too,
dude. It's like, it's fun, but then like now I'm like, what was I doing?
You're just like ruining your credit because you have no money to pay your bills because you're just going out and blowing it like impulsively.
Just blowing it. And like I liked having friends around, so like let me have like just everyone come on, like I'm paying for the bill, like it's cool.
Yep.
To a fucking detriment. And having somebody that was around me at the time that was like, hey dog, you sure? Like every night it would have been helpful.
Yeah.
But I guess having that right community around you is just another stamp like that. This is really definitely important. So then what was the I am so interested in asking, like, what is Coronado's, like, he obviously believed in you. What is the conversation like looking for investors? I think I've been able to have the opportunity to sit down with other, like, with angel investors. And they were like, you didn't, like, I didn't bring what is it called? Like a stack or there's a word for it. But my business plan, pictures, all that kind of stuff. You can hand that to them traditionally, and they're like, okay, well, this is what we can do for you. I've sat down with 2 now, and neither have been successful. It's nice that Coronado's a friend, but still, like, I'm
still trying to draw him over to this investment circle. He's still he's a little more conservative, like, which is good. Like, I want to pay everything off. I want to make sure that my credit's good, and that's all good. But I feel like when you're in that investment circle, you got to have some balls. You got to be able to throw them out on the table and be like, all right, we're just going to let this shit ride. But it's got to be smart. I mean, everything's calculated. I talked about the 2 guys playing blackjack. You got a guy that's got $1 million in his account, and you got a guy with $100 in his account. Both of the guys go up, and they put $100 on a hand, and dealer comes out. Both guys have 2 face cards, so they're showing 20. The dealer's showing a 6. This guy over here is like, yes, it's a bust card. I'm so ready to go. And then dealer goes doop, 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 doop. Ends up hitting 21. Rakes in both the guys' chips. The guy over here with $1 million in his account, he's back up. The other guy's like freaking out. It's like you impulsively put all your shit into one pile. Whereas the guy over here is calculated. He's smooth. And you just can't be so dopamine driven and impulsive over here.
It's hard not to be.
It is, especially in Vegas.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I feel like after living here, I've gambled less. I've definitely had nights where I went out and I was like, all right, we got $300, and that's our cap. And then all of a sudden, it's like, fuck. Okay, well, I've spent now $500-600, and do I stay or do I go? Like, can we gamble? Yes. Should we gamble? I think it could be good to just call it a day at this point. I'm not a big gambler. I would love to maybe get, like, I was listening to a podcast with Dana White, who's known to be a big gambler. His credit limit is $6 million, and his goal is to make $1 million a night. And once he's made his million, he's walked away. Homie can probably spend a hell of a lot more than $6 million.
Oh, for sure.
But like, even him has an upper limit cap. Now, $1 million to make in a day is insane, but like, there's still a rationale.
Right. I mean, if he loses that million, he's fine. He's fine. It's like Jordan. I think it was Jordan that would bet $1 million on a hole of golf. Every hole was $1 million, I think.
God damn. That's insane. I know he's a big gambler. I know Jordan. Yeah. He's well known to be a big gambler, especially in the golfing world. So I wouldn't put it past him. I don't. Could you ever do that? Like, put $1 million down on a fucking?
I mean, if I had a few $100 million, $1 billion, yeah. I mean, you got to think about it. If you had $100 and you're just going to gamble $1 out of that, sure,
fair.
I mean, if you
perspective.
I got here this morning. I think we flew in 8:00. Got out of the airport around 9, and I sit down at the blackjack table this morning for not very long, 15, 20 minutes.
Play a couple of rounds. How'd it go?
Yep, won 100 so far.
Not bad.
Easy. Nothing. Just very, very chill. I'll play some more tonight.
That's good, man. It's freaking neat. So I have a couple notes. Sliding scale 0, we've discussed. We have the power of because, living by the seas.
So there were. If I can go back, there were 7. So we had confidence, we had consistency, we had charity, we had. Man, you had to put me on the spot.
I couldn't. I don't remember them.
You don't have it pulled up?
I wish I could. Yeah, it's on the phone.
Now you're gonna make me look bad.
No, we can cut it out. 7 C's. So
the biggest one I think that we need to talk about, and of living by the seas, of those 7 C's, is confidence. We kind of talked about it a little bit earlier, and I feel like confidence is when you get those reps in on something. I sat down with you about a year ago. We did a podcast, and a month goes by, 2 months goes by, you don't put anything out. And I'm like, well, man, he must be backed up. I'm going to ask him. So I send you a text message. You're like, dude, it sucked. He's like, your personality didn't come out, like nothing. And so I knew, like, I'm not going to avoid that. I knew I had to get those reps in. Let's do more podcasts. Let's do more speaking engagements. Let's make sure that I'm more confident in what I'm doing. And this is where we are now. This is better.
This is an entirely different human.
I freeze up behind a camera and microphone. I'm like, I don't know what's going on.
It can be scary, but I think, again, with reps, it helps. But also, I don't know. I think it depends on the person you're with. I think it's definitely part of it. But when you first start, like, speaking about the things that you know, it's like, wait, do I know these things? Oh shit, I don't know. Should I put this out there? Yeah. Am I afraid to be wrong
or vulnerable?
Be vulnerable.
That was the worst part about the book, is that vulnerability. But I had to be confident in that, and now the more that I do it, and the more that I market it, the more that I talk to people, and they're like, good feedback, it makes me feel better, and I feel less vulnerable in that situation. But in that confidence chapter, we go over all the rep stuff, and I told the story about the slipper savior, and
my bad, somewhere, yeah.
Okay, so we had this story about the slipper savior, and that was all about confidence due to repetition. It was December of, I think, 2022. I'm sitting there drinking some beers. I've been drinking beers for like a little bit in the afternoon, and then we're watching a football game, just me and a buddy of mine. And then about 11 o'clock, my wife comes home with my 17-year-old and the baby, and she goes in the bedroom just to give the boys their time, watch some football. And then she comes back into the living room and she says, I think I heard gunshots outside. I was like, we're getting close to New Year's. I'm sure it's just some kids shooting off fireworks or whatever. We live in a nice neighborhood. I'm sure it's fine. So she goes back in the room. She comes out probably 30 seconds later, panicked as shit. And she's like, there's a guy with a gun in our front yard. And I was like, all right. So I go in my room, open the safe, grab my gun, and walk out like I'm playing Call of Duty or something. I just go out on the front porch. I'm standing behind our big pillar on the front porch and across the street. And it's pitch black outside. We have very minimal lighting down our street. And across the street, I see the silhouette of this person. And he just keeps leaning over and standing back up, and leaning over and standing back up. And I've got my gun drawn on him. And then all of a sudden, this guy turns, and I see the emblem of the patch on his uniform. I'm like, shit, that's a cop. So I hand off my gun to my buddy. He goes and puts it up high in the bedroom. And I take off running across the street. Complete disregard
for the other person.
Like there could have been a shooter like standing right there. Like, I'd have been gone. Didn't care. And so I run out there, and I was like, hey, are you okay? He's like, I've been shot. And I was like, shit. And so I go over there, and I'm trying to assess everything. We get him. My buddy comes out there, and we get him and walk him over to the corner. There's a street light, and there's a street sign so we can call it in. And we get him laid down, and now I can just see like blood bubbling out of his leg. I'm like, damn. I'm like, if that hit the femoral artery, he does not have much time. So I run back inside, and I did not realize it whenever, and I don't even know where these slippers came from. I'm wearing a tank top, some gym shorts, and I'm wearing slippers that have Santa riding a unicorn. I have no idea where these things came from, but I'm like, what the fuck am I wearing? And so I run in, I grab 2 belts, and run back out and cinch up a tourniquet around his leg, right around his groin, and then I see that he has another shot on his arm. And so we start to do the tourniquet on the arm, and then it was like an 80s action movie, like police, ambulance, everybody just swarms in. And my wife's looking out the window. She hands the baby off to my son. She's like, I got to go tell him that it wasn't him, because I'm standing there with my hands up.
Bloody.
Yeah, I'm like covered in blood. And they were cool. They didn't assume anything. The guy actually, so it was a routine traffic stop, but it was a stolen car. And so they're going, and the guy takes off in the car, and he comes to this area, this road kind of behind my house or off to the side of my house, and he tries to cut through these people's yard to get onto my road and get away. Well, he gets caught by a tree line, and then he has to jump out and take off on foot. Well, then the cop jumps out, takes off. The guy just like reaches back, fires, and hits him twice. I don't know how many shots he fired, but it hits him twice while he's running. Circles back around, steals the cop car, and takes off, and drives it to the other side of town, dumps it, steals another car, and drives like up towards Hearn, which is about 30 minutes north. And they found him the next day, and he's hiding down in a ditch, and they have all these drones flying over and he's trying to shoot him, so he wastes his ammo, and they go in and snipe him and blow half his head off. It was insane.
He lived. Wild.
He lived.
What the fuck?
They showed his mugshot. He looks like Sloth from the Goonies. He's got like a point head.
Damn.
It went in his cheek and like blew the side of his skull off. I have no idea how he lived.
Yeah. Holy shit. I mean, I guess he's gonna suffer for a very long time at this point. That's fucking crazy.
Yeah. So we went at that night. We didn't know where he was. We didn't know what was going on. And my wife was like, our backyard, we got a big rock wall around our backyard. And she was like, that'd be a good place to hide. So then I get my gun. My buddy's got his flashlight. We go hunting, and he was gone. Mayor calls me like a few months later. Gave us both like a citizens award, courageous citizens award for the city. So that was cool.
That is cool. I mean, I've never been in that situation, but I don't know how I would react. That's for damn sure. Like,
I sobered up real quick.
Yeah, it'll make you sober up real quick. Then you have this understanding, like, yeah, I should use a tourniquet, but like in that moment, you don't like. It's just reaction, right?
Right. It's those reps that you put in. I was confident in what I was doing.
Yeah.
And just knew what to do.
It's fucking crazy, man. It's so cool. It's so crazy cool. I hope to never be in that position, but if I do, I hope to channel my inner Jason.
There you go.
Just got to run
The
out.
slipper savior.
Slipper savior. Hell yeah. I like that a lot. And then I think that's all the notes that I have.
Is there anything else you wanted to go over from the book?
Yes. The last chapter, our fence story. I'm gonna start with that. I'm gonna let you tee it up and go from there. Can you tell me a little bit more about the fence story?
Yeah. We talked earlier about mentorship and taking out the trash, modeled behavior, and these people, these negative people that are in your life, you gotta get rid of them. And the people that are doing things to you or that you're seeing that's being modeled that's negative, don't repeat that. The fence incident was a traumatic story for me when I was 13. I might have been 12. I was going into the 7th grade, and so yeah, I was 12, I think, or 11. And first year playing tackle football, my dad, who powerlifted, he was my height, so 5'7", 315 pounds.
It's a big boy.
He was big.
Damn.
And so he's like, we're gonna learn angle tackling. I was like, all right. So we go in the backyard, and the way our yard was set up is we just had a little deck and then a privacy fence, like a picket fence around the back. And he said, I'm going to go stand over by the back of the fence. You stand up by the house. You throw me the ball. I'm going to run over this way. You take a good angle of pursuit, put your head on the outside, wrap up, and drive through. You know, I'm 11, 12 years old. I'm not very big. And go over. I throw him the ball and go towards him. And as soon as I'm about to wrap up, he just like shoves me down to the ground. Like, well, this kind of sucks. 5, 6, 7, 8 times. Keeps happening. Every time that I go over there, now I'm just getting timid. I'm waiting for it. And that pisses him off. He's like, quit being a bitch. Drive through. Like, fucking 112 pounds. What do you want me to do? And so he got so pissed off. And he said, fuck it. Switch me positions. I was like, this is not going to end well. And so I just very slowly started walking towards the back by the fence. As soon as I turned around, I was like, think fast. And he was standing about this close to me, and he just shoveled past me the ball. And as soon as it hit my hands, he just plowed through me. And I went through the fence and landed with my back on the pickets. And whenever I stood up, there were like 3 or 4 pickets nailed to my back. And he comes over and pulls each one of them out. I mean, they were nailed in there. And all I could think about was like, oh, thank God we're done. I don't have to do this anymore. I didn't care about the nail holes or anything like that. And then he says to me, go inside and have your mom clean this shit up and get back out here. We're not done. Like, are you serious? So I had to still come back out and go through a lot of that. So when my son was born, I was probably 30. And my parents came up to Kansas City. And we're sitting on the couch. I'm holding my kid. And he goes, hey, you remember that time that I knocked you through the fence? I'm like, yeah. That was pretty funny, huh? Fuck no, dude, that's not funny. Like, how in your right mind do you think that's funny? Traumatic experience. Like,
it's not funny by any means.
No, not when you're on the receiving end of it.
It's being a bully for bully's sake. And I don't, like, logically, this doesn't end up working in my favor ever in any situation. Like, you're 300 pounds. I am a small human. I'm a child. What do you want me to do? Right. And I remember very similar experiences growing up. My dad is just an aggressive human. I think being a cop and like he's around a bunch of dudes all day. They're out going, like, he's part of the SWAT team. Like, they're going and kicking guys' asses, and that probably comes home. And so he has this frustrated energy, I guess, when he comes home. And I remember he would teach us like how to fight, or like, you got to kick somebody in the nuts first, or you got to go for the left side if you hit their jugular. And he's like, he would try it on you, and then he's like, all right, now try it on me. And you try it, and if it's too aggressive, then it's like, what the fuck do you think you're doing? I was like, I don't know.
What you told me to do.
Yeah, well, I don't know what you told me. And then like, you got to do it like this. And he would like, we would just sit in the living room for hours and like going over like how to kill somebody. He's like, if you ever get into these situations, this is the way you're going to kill somebody if you really need to. Or I think my favorite one, the very similar, where it's like, wasn't that kind of funny? I had my brother is autistic, and he knew that he had 5 pennies, 7 nickels, and 3 dimes, right, inside of his little drawer, and he was like, but they're gone. So Ben must have stole them. And so they came up to me. He was like, "Did you steal them?" And I was like, "I don't even know where he holds his coins. Like, I have no, I didn't steal anything." And they were like, "Well, we think you stole them, so just admit it." I didn't. And we sat on the dinner table for what felt like, if I remember, it felt like hours, like me just like pleading, like, "No, I didn't steal them. I didn't do it. I don't know what else to tell you. Like, I just had nothing to do with this." And finally, my dad goes over to the stove, and he takes my hand and he brings my hand over the stove. He turns it on and it's red hot. And he's like, "If you don't tell me that you stole them, I'm going to put your hand against the red stove." And I was like, I can feel the heat on my hand. And I mean, I'm a kid, man. And it's my dad. He's a huge human being with a cop. Like, he's a cop. He kills people. Like, yeah, I stole him.
Just to not get your hand burnt.
I was gonna get my hand burnt or
You get your ass kicked. What are the two? Take your pick.
Yep. So I was just like, yeah, I stole them. And he's like, "I knew it." And he goes and grabs the belt and just like fucking wails on me. And years later, I like realized like this was not okay. And I was like, "Hey, remember that time like where this happened? Like, I never actually stole them." And he was like, "Really?" It's like, "Yeah." It's like, "Huh. Oh well."
And just blows it off.
I was like, no, sorry, no, like, you don't see how that's fucking traumatic, and like the level of trust, or like how that changes somebody with their desire to be honest or not honest. Like, for what? For me? And you never really asked. You never believed me. Like, I never had any faith from my family. And then you want me to go out into the world and like have a support system that I don't know really trusts me or believes in me. Like, that's fucking hard, man. It takes years to have enough people like that will give you enough validation. Like, I still to this day, I'm like looking for validation. I think probably part of the success, like the goal of success, is like, I want to show that I'm worth it. Like, I know that I am, but this concept of self-worth is something in therapy that I talked a lot about. Is like, how can I be like, I'm worthy now in this moment. Even though I remember growing up, my dad would be like, "You are worth nothing in this house. You are nobody in this house." Like, he would get mad and just yell this at me. And I was like, what that does to you long term is fucking wild, man. And
that's something I still struggle with too. Like, when is enough? Like, I make $1 million, make $10 million. Then what? Like, am I gonna feel, worthy and have that self-worth? That's very big. Having that validation is huge.
It's huge. And like, having the right people around you that are just like, "Hey man, like they support you, like they believe in you."
Yeah.
Like, they truly believe in you. And what was weird to me, it was kind of like questioned it. I was so like, well, if my parents don't believe in me, then why does this person believe? Like, what do they want? Like, I was so skeptical for such a long time of like, an untrusting of other people. And it's like, they believe in you. Like, just trust them for what it is. And then if they fuck you over, they fuck you over, but that's not on you.
Yeah.
Like, you did the good thing. You gave them trust. Like you led with trust. That's a good thing. Like, that's a good practice. And like, remember that not everybody's going to just like get mad at you or yell at you and say you're not enough or say you're never going to be successful. But there are people it was always people who weren't a part of my family that were going to believe in me more. And so it's, I think I can create more of that resentment with my family. It's like, I want help, man. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't like, did you guys know what you were doing? Like, probably not, but like, I want people that like, at least like, even just like, "Hey, you got this. Like, you can figure it out. I know, I believe in you." Like, that would have helped a lot at the time,
Yeah. And there are times that it's a struggle. Like with my kids, I get irritable. I'm stressed out and I got all this stuff going on, and it's hard not to blow up, but I have to really remind myself that I can't repeat that model behavior, and I can't tell them that they're worthless and everything. It does nothing. I don't ever want them to feel the way that I feel or the way I felt in those moments. So I'm always trying to provide encouragement, education to get them going the right way.
It makes me like in this moment, right? And the therapist is like, hey, feel your feelings, right? So my feelings are just like, man, it makes me feel a little bit sad, but at the same, like, I can like redirect that into this, like, I feel grateful for the people that have been there, like that I can count. Like I love being able to go through my phone or go through my contact list and say like, oh fuck, man, like Jason was always there. Like Jason's always been help. Or Dr. Lightfoot, I would have never been here if it wasn't for him. Like there are those people that are around, and like taking that like sense of sadness into like, hey, there's an opposite to this. The opposite is like you did have people that were able to be there for you. And like, I think it makes me more grateful to have those people around.
For sure.
Yeah. Whew.
That was a intense like 10 minutes.
Yeah, that was. Yeah, it makes me a little sad inside. But
yeah,
again, like
getting choked up. Like,
yeah. You just got to redirect it and like remember it's okay to be sad, but at the same time, the opposite of that is that opportunity to continue to build relationships. And there's gonna be more people that come in through our lives, like that are gonna be like that maybe less encouraging individual. I think you called it something vampire, like an energy vampire, I think is what you called it. You have those energy vampires in your life, but you also have these people that are like, hey man, like how can I help? Like how can I be there? Like even if it's just connecting with people. Yeah. It's like, yo, I know this guy over here that does this. It's like dope. Like let me just send a text, and like that costs me nothing. That costs you nothing. That costs them, but they benefit at the end of the day. Like fuck yeah, all day, dude. Like hell yeah. Like
always reach out to those people. Make sure, and if you reach out to them, it's gonna come back to you. So for sure,
you might not see it on the immediate, but it's always there. You know, it's always there. 16-year-old Jason, what are you going to tell 16-year-old Jason? If you have Jason today giving advice to 16-year-old Jason, or even, I think most of our population for the podcast is like right between 20 and 30. So even like 20 to 30-year-old Jason, what advice would you give?
Figure out your goals, get your ducks in a row, figure out the steps to get there, and go.
I like it.
Simple. I mean,
it is simple. It's clean.
I mean, if you're going through hard times, we just talked about some hard shit. Use that for those intangibles. I think a lot of those hard times created that grit and that desire to win. So, and I just don't victimize yourself and always keep pushing forward.
I like it. Plug, promote. Where can people find you? What's the name of the book?
Be the Successor. It's on Amazon. We got ebook, hardback, and paperback. I'm working on the audio this summer.
Beautiful.
I'm not looking forward to recording that, but everybody's asking me if I'm going to do it in my own voice. I was like, I'm going to get McConaughey or somebody to do it. But no, they have, cool. I heard they have this AI platform where you can go in and record your voice for doing like 3 or 4 passages, and it'll do the whole book for you. And then you can like go in and edit the inflection in your voice.
Damn. That's pretty neat. Is that what you're going to do?
I think so.
Okay.
It would take me forever to read that whole thing word for word all the way through and not mess up.
Yeah, that's fair.
2030 and we're still finishing up like chapter 3.
It's reading books is hard. That's no joke. Like I've done voiceover stuff in the past, and it is a difficult task.
Yeah.
So Be the Successor. Is there a social media platform for it as well?
Yep. Instagram, Be the Successor book, and then on X or Twitter, it's Be the Successor.
Beautiful. We'll also link it down below if you guys want to go ahead and check it out there as well. So we'll add in all the links if you want to send me some links that you'd prefer people to go to, I'll include it in the description. And then I think that's about it.
Cool, man.
Thank y'all.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. Cheers.
Appreciate it.
Love it. Thank y'all. Take care. Goodbye. Love you. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Ben Nevares podcast. Check us out on iTunes, Spotify, and all other major podcast hosting platforms. Be sure to leave us a 5-star review on iTunes.